Test.
Now they can hear me at home, perhaps. Okay, so we're gathered in and we're greeting one another. We'll see if I turn my volume down, if that affects life. So it is good to be together. You are a beautiful sight to behold as the Northeastern Assembly is gathered and is in session. Let us pray. Bless your church. And bless your house, we pray, good and holy one. Amen. Well, you never know when you throw a party who's going to say they're coming, right? And one of the great gifts of regional ministry, right? Regions stand in the middle of congregations and the general church. The Christian Church Disciples of Christ expresses itself three ways. We used to say it manifests itself. Now we say it expresses itself because we always want to freshen up the furniture, right? And the church expresses itself locally, fully the church, but not the full church. Regionally, 31 regions in the United States and Canada, fully the church, a parish, but not the full church. And then the general church. And so we're grateful to have with us guests from the general church. We'll hear more from them tomorrow. Raquel Collazo comes to us from Pension Fund, and she's been with us before. She came to this place for Poor People's Campaign reconciliation training, pro-reconciling, anti-racism work, and so we're glad you came back. And that's a sign of love and appreciation. And she's with the Pension Fund, but we also happen to have with us some folks who are experts in the holy real estate, okay? And this is the first time that the president of Disciples Church Extension Fund has been in Connecticut. She's been in our region. Well, I don't know, were you as president? You were here the day before it was announced, or close to that, and didn't tell anybody. Right, and so Belinda knows us well, Belinda King, the president of Disciples Church Extension Fund. She couldn't be everywhere all the time, so she went out and called somebody into her old position, Todd Dokes, who heads up the financial services group. And so Todd has a group of advisors who will serve us, and but he's also assigned to the Northeastern region. So that's great. And Marilyn Fidmond is no stranger to us, our vice president from the Christian Church Foundation, and they do some really good work with there. In our denomination, there have been some wonderful stories of turnarounds in institutions. Okay? Think National Benevolent Association. Some people are remembering some of this. Think Lexington Theological Seminary. Think Christian Theological Seminary. Turnarounds because things were caving in financially. The Christian Church in Pennsylvania, Illinois-Wisconsin region has been much blessed with some gifts, and Pacific Southwest. But the thing that all of these resurrection stories, or these moments that are Phoenix-like, have in common is appreciated real estate was part of the story. I don't think you can find a turnaround in our historical society. I don't think you can find one that there wasn't some aspect of tapping the value of the real estate that came into play to help the ministry in a big way. If there is, we want to know about it because I don't want to misspeak. So the real estate that our ancestors have given us has proven to be a major gift. a blessing. It's like Old Testament stuff, right? How do you know you're blessed? You got the land. Now, there's also an awful lot of stress on our life because of what we've been given. And one could argue even the real estate puts stress on the institutions. Do any of you have a problem-free real estate or building that have not caused you ever any grief, or one that when you go to bed at night you say, thank goodness we don't have to worry about this? Some of our churches do really well with our real estate. I'm guessing Chile is one that handles things. I'm thinking of some in West Virginia. Shiloh. Okay, forgive me. I'll do better. Rochester. But there are, even those congregations are spending a bigger part of their budget to keep their real estate in place. Okay? The northeastern region of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ just a few years ago had nothing. We had each other. We had a great heritage, but we didn't have any pennies. I say pennies because that's the smallest denomination of, yeah, right? Nothing. But through some gifts, through some changes, and through some challenges, our region is coming back on solid ground. But again, it was appreciated real estate. Closing congregations that put this into place. So add our region to that. So we thought we'd do, since we have some experts here, maybe would be to throw some questions out and see if you could maybe popcorn some thoughts or answers to us. And I can throw some building related questions to us if we need to get started, but I'm guessing some of you may have some on your mind, and you all have resources to help us, and have. And so we want to say thank you. But this is our time just to chat about the Holy Land, if we could. So Belinda, and I don't know if anyone, you want to give sort of introduction, or you want to just start taking some questions?
No, we could just start taking questions. Okay, I'll give an introduction. Belinda King, as he's already said, president of Disciples Church Extension Fund. I've been with, we call ourselves DCEF for short. Nobody really know that. They call it Church Extension for short, but we call ourselves internally DCEF. But been with them for 10 years and just recently came into the role of the president in January. And so one of the things, of course, being the new president, people are asking about your vision and how things are going, and knowing that churches are struggling with their buildings. But in looking at their building really as a monster or elephant in the room, but really can be an asset to congregations. And so we're doing things where we're trying to put those stories out more and sharing. And you guys may have stories here in the room as well. And we welcome those stories when churches have used their building in a certain way. So I want to just lift up one particular, because we're here in the northeastern region, La Hermosa, which is a Hispanic congregation. We call them actually the Mother Church, out of New York. And one of the things that they are doing, and they could not have done this probably by themselves, but they're working closely with the region, with the Hispanic pastor, Obra Hispana, Pastor Lori Tapita, and working with Disciples Church Extension Fund. They're building over $1 million in maintenance that they needed to do in order to have that building to be able to use it for their ministry the way they needed to. And so basically, but the thing about them is they sit in some great real estate off of Central Park. And so that makes it a very wanted land, maybe not the building, but the land. And so they are working with us and working with developers, and it's very complicated. And I've been in commercial lending for over 20 years before I came to Disciples Church Extension Fund, and even their transaction is complicated from a commercial lending perspective. But they're doing a hundreds. Okay, sorry. Okay, hundreds of thousands. It's a couple of hundred million that they're doing a project, but they're not doing that whole part. That part is what the whole project is. Theirs is somewhere around 10 to 17 million. And what they are doing is, one, they worked with the developer that, we helped walk alongside. Reverend Thad has helped us as well. He was there when we were trying to go through the developers and picking the developers, interviewing each one of them. Cheap is not always the best. Churches tend to go cheap, but cheap is not always the best. But really working with partners who know the business. And what they are doing is the pastor, Reverend Dan Feliciano, and his wife Gloria, and the church are very adamant, as we know, being in the city, that gentrification, as we call it, is happening, where we want to move people out who can't afford it and move people in so you can get the condo sales. And so they were very adamant about that not happening and being able to cohabitate. So yes, they have the condo sales. Yes, they have. They also have the affordable housing. They're working with local government. That's a lot of red tape, but we're working alongside of them with attorneys and all of the business, as I call the ABCs. So the attorneys, the bankers, which we're the banker, and then of course the CPAs, the accountants. And so what they're doing is the developers is going to help them, or is helping them right now, to build about 3 or 4 levels of a church, and then they will have so many floors of affordable housing, and then the condo sales, because they want to continue to do the ministry in that neighborhood and the people who have been serving in that neighborhood. And so those are some things that they're doing that we are helping them with, that most churches wouldn't have never thought to do something like that, and working with them. And so that's just one example. That's a huge example, but I can share many of stories of different things that we're working with churches, because I'm working with someone right now in Virginia, Park Street Christian Church, and they're in the process of working with a developer. It is something that churches should not work alone, because developers are always going to be in it for the money. And so we want to make sure that the churches come out whole when we walk alongside of the churches who are in areas where your land is probably wanted more in developers. And so that's some things that Church Extension can walk alongside of you and help you through that process, along with the region, because we couldn't have did this without the region and the national pastor. Yes.
I love the creativity out there.
Yes.
Has a model emerged for churches that are in the residential area?
In residential, what we are helping congregations in around residential is looking at how do you serve your, first of all, and let me back up and say this, the buildings where you're in residential, know your community. Know your why. We always ask, why do you exist? Why are you passionate? What are the needs? A lot of times churches don't want to mix church and state together, but you can partner if it's done right. And so, and you have these things, these people called mayors and counselors that they run for office and they want to stay in office forever and ever and ever. And it's perfectly, they really want to partner with you when it's election time. And so, in working with those partners to see what is needed, working with the social services areas in those areas, what is needed. I'm trying to think if it's a church out of, and I'll give you churches from all different places, different stories, out of Tennessee, and they had came and they have a lot of space, they have a lot of land, and they wanted to build a senior housing in that area. Well, when we have a program through our new church ministries called Mission Insight, where we can do a whole demographics around that area and look at what the Census Bureau are currently and what's predicting 5, 10, 15 years from now. And so it's growing with families, like schools are being built around them and all that. That if they hadn't have came to us, they would have maybe started down that path and spent a lot of money for senior housing when that was not going to be relevant in where they were at. So knowing those kind of things, and we work with you on that. But really with residential congregations is really getting to know your community and then finding a passion where they both connect together and then utilizing your space for that. Because there are a lot of churches now are using it as, and not looking at it, although some churches do look at it like that, but the ones that are thriving are the ones who does not look at it as a tenant relationship, and it's more of we're partnering. You are part of our ministry. This is part of our ministry. We want to help, even though, you know, they're, whatever that the thing may be. It could be yoga, it could be, you know, teaching autism children, whatever that is that that community may need, and that church partners with them. So I'm thinking of one in Ohio, in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. They are surrounded by one side, literally, I'm just gonna say the right side is affluent, left side poor. All of the schools are getting rid of arts on the left side of the church, and over here, where the church is at, and over here they have arts. And so they found out that was a need from talking to, I think the pastor was a chaplain or something somewhere, and found that out. And so now they're partnering with us to retrofit and renovate their space so that they can be able to have those arts and programs within their church. So it's being really creative, and we walk alongside you through various programs and services that we offer within. So we're known as the building people, but we also do a whole lot of other things outside of just looking at the building. The building, we hope you to get to that through ministry planning and all those different things. Hopefully that kind of answered your question, which was 10 minutes longer, but you know.
the building and a lot of the people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you go in and try to find out what the human needs are there too. But have you worked with rural centers?
Rural churches we are still working to figure that out, because that is a significant issue for a lot of our churches. And a lot of our churches, I shouldn't say a lot of them, but quite a few of our churches are in rural areas and trying to service those churches. And because of course, no one's coming to want to buy your land. So you're not getting those kind of offers. You're not close in the city or within a community where you may be able to utilize your building in a certain way. So when we've worked so far with rural churches, it's really just working through with their ministry and really trying to see, some things around them. We are not in the business of telling people that they need to leave their building, but sometimes that has happened where it's, is this building still serving you in the location of what you want to do? But it's a whole process for us to get to that, and that's not always the final answer. Actually, very rarely as it is, but that is an option sometimes. But rural churches are most the one area that we do need to continue to look at that, and that's something we're looking at. Mm-hmm. Yes. That's a you question.
She got to pass the microphone, is what she said. One of the things, Marilyn Fidmont, Christian Church Foundation, and it's been my pleasure to partner with you over the last block of time and to be able to show up in person. Rick, I have something of an answer, not a full answer. There are more and more congregations, particularly after pandemic, if they were already feeling the stress of properties, buildings, pandemic has made that crisis mode. And one of the things, as Belinda has said, we never tell a congregation when it's time to, shall we say, fold the tent. But we do believe, whether DCEF or Christian Church Foundation, that we have to be faithful and good stewards for all those folks who have gone before us. And that, and I am a staunch believer that you can only sell this once and you can't leave any money on the table. I know Marilyn Fidmont's kind and generous, except you can only sell it once and you can't leave any money on the table. So one of the things that we've discovered with congregations, when they are aware that this building has become more than they can manage, particularly in a city like Houston, where real estate is, really nice, or in Southern California and those kind of places, consider, does selling this building close our ministry, or does it allow us to invest those funds and have an income stream and recast our ministry? Because that's very possible. I'm working with a congregation right now that if they sold the property to the developer, $35 million property. If they sell it to a church, they're willing to take less than that. But the 40 or 50 people who are in that congregation, does that close their ministry? Because it doesn't have to. That means you can do ministry with that kind of income stream for millions of dollars. You could go somewhere else. If they didn't want to do it, they could sponsor a new church. So there are any number of ways they can do that. You also ask about apartments and that kind of thing. I'm not as familiar, Belinda knows that better than I, but I think there are ways in which we can leverage the asset. Sometimes it is a congregation, the congregants are weary, and they really are ready to say, let's bless this thing and let it go. I have congregations that are merging. One is going to merge with the other. The church that's selling its property, they've already sold it, and what they're going to do is create a legacy fund that will give income stream in perpetuity to the ministries. For parts of the denomination will receive gifts in perpetuity. The other portion they're going to use to set up funds to help with the congregation where they are merging. They don't like to use that word, but where they will be together. So one of the main things to me is that what's the best thing we can do with this asset? What's the best, because you can only sell it once. And we know that we've had congregations in a very benevolent way decide we're going to give this building to that new church or whatever it is down the road. Here are the keys, come get it. And I cringe, so does that. But so what we try to do is think of the most creative way to leverage the asset and for the congregation to either have a legacy, or if they're merging with another congregation, what is the best thing, what's the best decision we can make at that time? And we have to be really good about it. And most congregations need to be thinking about that before it's time to either close or sell it or whatever. Always, just like we would do with our own estates, think about it. Have a plan in place. What if? What if? The painful part in some parts of our denomination, the property, if it's sold, we will never be able to buy that property again. Buying property in Southern California probably will not happen. So when those churches go off the rolls, you won't be able to purchase it again.
Maybe something from the chat here. Diane Ellis from Western New York, who's chair of our Commission on Ministry in that section, who's one of the nicest people God ever made. She says, this is a great discussion, looking at the positive side of what to do with a building that is taking up all the budget. And so one of the things that I think is happening, and I think I heard it at dinner, Jerome and Sharon were talking a little bit about that, is what are the positive uses of buildings for ministry? In other words, that these are gifts, not simply millstones around our neck. And I think that attitude about them is important. That's from Diane Ellis.
Some of the positives that are happening. We have some congregations that have become ministry centers. I've been working with the regional ministers in Pacific Southwest region, and you know the one, of course, in Arizona, where they do try to do something different with that building, that it can be used to serve the community and impact have a wider impact than just a small group meeting on a Sunday morning. So, but once again, you have to think in terms of making that decision before we get to a point of being so vulnerable you can't sustain.
Those things aren't going to bail us out,
They are not going to bail you out.
but they're part of our mission.
Let me just say a different twist to that. One of the things too, that my vision is Thriving Ministries. Our vision is we will be the catalyst for change, for the renewal of our congregations. And so looking at, and you know, when I refer to this as three-legged stool, people understand it, but it's a paradigm where understanding one, at the forefront, your ministry relevance, but also looking at all three things that make a ministry thrive. And that is understanding your financial life cycle, understanding your building life cycle, and then understanding, you know, the congregational life cycle and where you are at in each one of those make a difference. So we talked about, what made me think of this is on the financial life cycle, there is a mathematical percentage of how to look at your overall budget so that so that your building is not the main thing that takes up your budget. And so the rule of thumb and what we use is we're in the people business, right? We are a ministry. Our ministry is ran off of people. And so 50% of our income should go to salaries. And I always say, it doesn't mean the pastor get 50% of the income, but it's the volunteers, everything, those things, the people who come in and do the ministry, all of those, 50% of that should be that. 25% of your budget should go to your building. But if you have a loan and you have debt, then it should not be that debt should not be more than 16%. And so when people have debt with us, our grading structure is set up that you're not going to be more than 16% in debt, because we still know there's maintenance, everyday maintenance and every year maintenance that you have to do in the building. And then 15% for programs and ministry, and 10% obviously for doing ministry or tithing outside of that. That is something that we at DCEF are going to begin to start helping our congregations to really live more into that model, so that they are making, you're not unbalanced, or as I say, one of the legs is not wobbly, because if one of the legs is wobbly, the whole table is unsteady. And so therefore that makes the whole ministry unsteady if you're not following a certain financial life cycle, your budget and things like that, as well as the same thing with your building, you know, making sure that it doesn't become deferred or never done maintenance, because just like our houses, they age. We age. We have to keep up maintenance on our body. If we don't do anything to our own bodies, eventually, you know, it doesn't get better, it gets worse. And so same thing with our buildings as well, so it doesn't put our congregations into that situation. So going more to the root as opposed to solving, you know, being reactive after the problem happens, is trying to do it on the front end. And you'll hear more as we begin to work with congregations to do that work. You look like you want to say something.
Question here.
Jerome Howard here from Brooklyn, the fourth largest city in America. Good evening. Jerome Harold here from Brooklyn, the fourth largest city in America. Your FBC cycle, which is financial building or congregation cycle, and is there any way you could reverse the equation where ministry 50%, building 25%, and debt 16%, out of the example you guys just gave us, like either New York, Los Angeles, and every place else, building is sky high. There is no way building could be 25% if any congregation buy a building. And those buildings also, there is other income those buildings could generate by mixed use. Can you guys consider that and reverse the equation?
That equation is just looking at your income and how, if I was to take your last year overall budget income, we would look at what do you spend all of your money for and divide it up by those 4 different categories, and to kind of see where your percentage is at, and then kind of walk alongside the church to help them to get, because you really don't want to be spending 50% of your income going into your building, because then it's going to strap you down the line. And so that's a delicate balance to keep your overall financials in order around that. And so we help in looking at that. And that's different than if you're trying to get a loan. So it's a different. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're losing a lot of congregation because of this equation. If we just reverse it and study case by case, and it might be a plus for us.
What other question? Oh, wait a minute, let me say one thing. So I just want to introduce, he's probably going to kill me for doing this, but Reverend Pastor Dan Feliciano just walked in the back. He is the pastor of the church I was talking about here in the Northeastern, who is doing something different with this building, working with developers. So just wanted to point him out into the room. Daring to be different. So thank you, Pastor. You can introduce yourself.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Right, I'll be brief. I'm Todd Dokes. I've been with DSA for about 90 days now. I cover the North. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Is that better? Thank you very much. Right. I am the Vice President of Services over the entire area that we cover, which is the contiguous states and a little bit of Hawaii as well, and Canada and Puerto Rico. All right. I also have a dual role. I cover this area, Reverend Thad's area in the Northeastern region, which was formerly covered by this young lady right here. She was elevated to president, as she mentioned, so yay again for Belinda King. It's a bit of a young audience, but I'm going to try this anyway. For those of you that remember the original show, Batman, with the guy in the little tights running around with the yellow belt on, there you go, all right. Kind of consider an advisory role as that person who had the utility belt, and each one of those little modules was a different service that he offered, right? The little hook and blah, 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 right? That's exactly what we do here as advisors. So it's very clear what an advisor does, right? It has a dual connotation. We offer a plethora of different products, which this gentleman right here, I had a chance to meet. I had a chance to talk with Ms. Jan right here. We offer everything from brick and mortar lending to equipment lending. We have a brand new product out right now we call technical loans. And in this modern state of churching right now, a lot of churches have technology here where they can stream their services. I didn't necessarily say we'll have to talk because it looks like you all need something here. For those that maybe left the church because of COVID and they're still at home and scared to come back out, we can offer you technology loans so you can stream live to your congregation who are sitting at home. So that's one of many things. In addition to those products, on the other side of the utility belt, we have things called investments, right? So this gentleman right here has X amount of dollars that he may want to invest personally, right? The pastor, the church congregation may want to set up an investment fund, a pension fund for the pastor. That's quite attractive as well, the retainage, et cetera, things like that. So we are a great resource to come and talk to you. And through that initial consultation, we can come up with things, listen to you guys first and foremost, and build a custom-made platform for each and every one of you in the congregation and along with the congregation and the pastor as a whole. So we offer tons and tons of things. It would be great if everyone had a chance at a minimum to just speak to your neighborhood advisor, which would be me. And I'll see all of you all tomorrow as well. So I promise I'd be brief. Any questions? Alrighty, I must have covered everything. All right, thank you very much. Oh, one question here.
One of the greatest services you offered our congregation 10 years ago when we were considering handicap accessibility issues was sending out an architect who could walk us through and help us envision what was possible and what was not. Do you still have that service available? 'Cause that is tremendous to help open the congregation's eyes to see what is truly possible.
So that's on this side of the belt, right? So the answer is yes. We still do have that. We do on this side. We have assessments as well where we can come in and do an assessment on the church. This church looks like it's in great condition. So yes is the short answer, and the long answer is yes as well. All right. That was a great question.
Just for some of you who may not know what that is, Disciples Church Extension Fund, we utilize, I was going to say real architects, but they are real architects. They're licensed architects that does consultant work for us. And we try to have, and we're trying to expand that because, of course, with everything with COVID, people are looking at their buildings a whole lot more differently now. But they come in and they are not hired to be your architect, and we purposely did that so that they would come in, could be objective, as opposed to, yeah, it's going to be about this, and my organization can do this for you, because most of them either work for themselves or they work for an architect firm. But it's really to help you to look at your building from a ministry standpoint. You know, I'm wanting to do this in our building because we want to be able to have this type of ministry. How could we do that? And the architect would walk through that to help in doing that. So thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, we do still offer that. It is a fee-based service, but we do still offer that service.
Capital fundraising as well.
Yep. What other questions? Great questions, guys.
That is probably the hardest part. When you have had births and deaths and weddings, and the brick and mortar seems to literally hold the tears and the smiles and the joy. And no one wants to be on the wall, shall we say, when the church made a decision to end its ministry. And one of the greatest privileges that I have is to sit with a congregation for as long as it may take and work through that whole process. We talked about resurrection, that those, if the building should be sold and a legacy fund created, how they will live out that faithful witness for years and years to come. The most difficult part is making that decision as to when it's really time. Regional ministers that I work with as I do ministry with them are very sensitive to that, because one of the things we don't want to have happen is a congregation to feel that they were forced to close. That is the last message that we want. We want to be in partnership and to hold the sacredness of that brick and mortar. Because other than people, that is our most valuable asset, is the brick and mortar. But when a congregation just sent me their list of things that they want to support, and Week of Compassion and DMF and one thing, and they're so excited about this, and in their paragraph that creates their legacy fund, that introduces the fund, they talk about that there are 100+ years of ministry. But now we have decided, and they are so they're so thrilled that they know their name will live on in the life of the denomination. But that is the hardest part. And we just walk it down. As my brother says, we just really try to walk it faithfully with them, because it is a hard decision. My home congregation sold its property during COVID. We sold the property, and have an online presence, and that's been working out well for us. And literally, as we left the property, had packed up all the little furnishings and left, and my husband and I started that church, and you know what I told everyone? Don't tell it goodbye, tell it thank you. As you leave this property, they had a piece of rock, a piece of dirt, and I said, tell it thank you, that it had allowed us to be on it, that God had allowed us to be on it and do our ministry faithfully there. But remember, wherever you go, you're still doing the gospel. But that's the thing, to make that so very sacred, and that hope that emerges to know that you are forever going to impact that gospel that your parents, grandparents, whoever handed to you, and you're still doing it. And we say thank you.
Can you think of a resurrection story in one of our institutions that didn't include the real estate?
Not offhand. I really can't. Real estate is a valuable component in more ways than one. It is the component.
Stained glass, community tables, making things look prettier than ugly. Anyone ever been around a project that got hijacked by a committee and it came out looking like a living room instead of a church? If you could help us not do that, we'd be grateful. I'd be grateful.
Don't give it to a committee. No.
Yeah. It is tough, and I mean, we call it steeplejacking. That's the nickname we call it, where basically, for those who may not know exactly, and hopefully you never have to know what it is when, certain people come in, join the church, you're excited, you got new people coming to the church, and they join the church, and eventually, they will, literally, we the church of committees, right? They form a committee, and they become the moderator, vice moderator, and basically then begin to change all the governance that is in place. And so that it makes it, yeah, and then vote the current pastor.
They're financially backed by people who own casinos
Yes.
and other places.
Yes, and that has happened. And so it's putting those, it's checks and balances, and first of all, you have to walk alongside. A lot of times, but I know no one in this room does this, but a lot of times people are like, we don't really need the regional minister to work alongside with us and work with us, but they know the writing on the wall, and so they've seen these things happen, and they can hope that it not happens, but also walk you through it, but not after the fact. It's like when someone's coming in or new pastors are called, because our pastors doing COVID, a lot of pastors are retiring and just, I'm done. And so old pastors go out that's not part of that, were part of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and new pastors may come in. And not saying that new pastors from other denominations may not be great, and that's okay, but just go through the process with your region when you're doing that, because all kinds of things can happen when you don't do that, and making sure the right governance is set up.
We have a document from Christian Church Foundation called the Termination Clause, and we encourage you to look at that. What you want to do, as Belinda has pointed out in the steeplejacking process, is to create as many road bumps as possible. Because when someone wants to take over a congregation, they want to do it quick and easily. And so you know how we are as disciples, we get new folks in, and we have some new blood and some new energy, and let's get them on a committee, et cetera, et cetera. I've said for years, you could take over Disciple Church in 6 months. You could do it. Get on the board, et cetera, become elders, do all the nice things, and pretty soon vote them out, and it has happened. The termination clause allows for, if you do this correctly, that nothing happens with property or pastor without the regional presence, either the board or the regional minister, involved in that process. You have to be mindful of that. We remind folks who have investments with Christian Church Foundation, make sure you update signature cards that we know who is on your accounts, et cetera, because that's the other thing people want to have access to, where's the money? But look at those clauses. Some regions own the property, and some of our regions own property on behalf of a congregation, and sometimes that served as protection, but and it also might have its own share of drawbacks sometimes, I would imagine. But look at ways in which you can protect the asset, because you literally can take over a disciple church, and it has happened. I didn't lead that charge, but it has happened. Look at your bylaws. You might find it could be easier than what you think.
If you come to church on Sunday and there's 50 visitors, don't have a hymn invitation.
Texas, in the state of Texas, the state is very kind to churches. It's not kind to other things in Texas, but it's very kind and generous with churches. And so most all of our congregations, church autonomy, we do that well. And it also, we do it to our peril, because we know better and all that kind of thing. But you need to be very vigilant when you have a lot of folks show up and what have you.
Look around, see if they're. Hey, didn't we get the A-team come to be with us for our assembly? We're grateful for you all. We honor you. We honor you, and these beautiful buildings that our ancestors have left us, or we participated in, are signs of God's presence in the world. And we want to be the best signs of presence that we can be. So you three are also signs of God's presence in the world. God bless you. Nate, get the church singing, brother.
All right, everybody, my name's Nate. I've been the music minister here at Central for about 1.5 years. We'll start off with I Could Sing of Your Love Forever. If you feel comfortable singing, please do. All right. Hold on 1 second, sorry. Got my pedal reversed. Lyrics are up there on our lovely screen. Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands. For I will always sing of when your love came down, yeah. I could sing of your love forever. 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 Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands. For I will always sing for when your love came down, yeah. I could sing of your love forever. 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 Oh, I feel like dancing. foolishness, I know. But when the world has seen the light, they will dance with joy like we're dancing now. I could sing of your love forever. 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 Thank you for singing, everyone. That was nice. All right, Open the Eyes of My Heart. Do we know that one, everybody? All right, then let's hear some singing. Okay. Here we go. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. A little bit louder, everybody. Here we go. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. Again. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. All right. Thank you, thank you. Sounds good. All right, now we're going to go a little more traditional. This is Spirit of the Living God. All right. Here we go. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Meld me, mold me, fill me, use me, Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Amen. All right. Thank you.
Hillary Buckland says amen. There's a practice in the church called the examen. At the end of the day, it's an Ignatian practice, but at the end of the day, you sort of assess how things went. What have I done? What have I left undone? What are the sins I've committed? What are the things I've omitted? And to give oneself to God in order that we might find a holy rest with pure heart and clear mind. One of the ways to do that is to take a nod from church camp. And actually this coming year, 23, I'm still messed up from this pandemic of where we'll mark 100 years of CYF conference in the denomination. And it started at Bethany. And still you will find at CYF conference at the end of the night, the conferees, and picture this, gathered in a circle. We're not going to gather in a circle, but we're close to one here. And picture young people at the end of the day saying, where did I see God? Where did I see God today? Which fits into one of our songs we're working with, but also it's a way of saying, I want to be focused on where it is that God is active in the world and in my life, and where did I see God? The first time you do it, some kid might say, well, I saw God in the French fries. But by the end of the week, it's beautiful to see how someone grows. By simply asking the question each night, where did I see God? So today for the exam and for the church, we're going to take a moment and simply say where we saw God. I saw God today in the folks who were working in the kitchen to make sure that our needs were met and making the place so lovely with flowers and apples and cider and tea and coffee and delicious food.
Thank you. I see God in almost everything I do now. I'm at a certain point in my life right now where your mind gets clear, and we've all witnessed tragedy in our lives with loved ones, parents, whatever the case may be. So he walks with me every day.
I saw God today, this morning, just before I came here. I had to pay a realtor to house a couple that came in last night from Texas, where they put them in a bus. They crossed 10 countries before they reached the border. And I saw God open the door by letting them come to me, and for me to find shelter for them.
I saw God today in Pastor Stephen. He was one of the first people that came up to me, and I'm looking at this, and I just noticed this, so I'm assuming these are some of your core values. I felt much hospitality by you today, so that's where I see God at.
I saw God today driving down from New Hampshire in the beauty of the colors of the leaves And part of that beauty is also that the trees are letting go of the leaves, and that is a part of life. So that reminder, I saw God both in the beauty of the color, but also the reminder that there are times to let go.
Good evening, everyone. I saw God today in the atmosphere, just traveling and coming. See the trucks on the road, the cars, but I don't see any accident. I just felt God in the atmosphere, and it was good.
I saw God today when we came to Danbury and everything was quiet and still, a bit different from where we left in New York.
I saw God today in the fellowship we're having and the faces of everyone who are here.
Good evening, everyone. I did see God today by me to be able to use my 5 senses in order to come here with the breath of life to be among each and every single one of you. Thank you.
A couple of weeks ago, I saw God in some of the ladies in our church when a young man and 2 little children walked in the church at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They had nothing to, they had not eaten anything that day. And some of the ladies in our church that were taking some of the leftover food home, they opened their bags and they fed that young man and those kids. And I saw God in them.
I saw God today as we were traveling in the highway on our way here, and I saw so many weeping trees. And that reminded me of the women that are in Bedford prison. Their tears, their hurts, their worries, their fears, and so many other things. And I'm always happy when I see the weeping tree, because that reminds me of my responsibility to the incarcerated.
I saw God today in the people that I met for the first time and started a new relationship just about the time I thought I'd gotten to know everybody that there is. Oh, thank you for being here.
I saw God today in something that might seem mundane, but still quite important. Driving here, people actually slowing down and letting me into traffic. So that gave me the opportunity to pay it forward later on.
I saw God today as I came here, and in people's eyes and in their voice, how they welcomed me, but I listened to them welcoming others.
I saw God today as I met the faces that go with all the registration name tags that I had made out. I didn't know very many of you, and now I know a whole lot of you, at least by your name. So I saw God as I did that.
I saw God in the faces and the voices of those that I spoke with as we gathered downstairs, old friends and new friends.
I saw God pulling up to the church and seeing the St. Andrew's cross on the chalice. Glad to be home.
I saw God today on my drive here today. I've been to Connecticut before, but I was just thinking to myself, wow, like I didn't see all this beauty last time I was here. So thankful for the drive and the time to appreciate nature, but also in the old friends and new friends that I've met today.
I saw God today when I looked at the All Saints Endowment Fund pictures,
and looked at all my friends there as well as my friends here.
I stand up. I have a reason to stand up. I thank God and I see God today for being able to be part of another assembly this year. The beginning of this year, I was enlisted for death. My son was already making program, calling ambulance, calling limousine, and made arrangement with me, with preacher will preach for my funeral. And I am here again for 47th year to see some other friends that I did not see before. I saw God and I thank God for everything that He has done for me and for all of you.
Amen. I saw God today high and lifted up in all of the unmasked faces, able to see smiles and able to see people and read their lips. I saw God unveiled in each of us. I'm grateful.
I think that today I didn't only see God here, but I felt God and I tasted God. I mean, I tasted God in that food. It was delicious. And I really felt God in all the hugs and the welcoming of the people here. And I saw God in these two women that didn't allow the poor men to talk. I saw God in you. I felt God in you. And I think that you are two beautiful women that are doing God's work. And I really felt God when I saw you and you hugged me. God bless you. God bless all of you.
I saw God and I heard God in all the interconnectedness of us all, in all the different languages. Some was body language, some was beautiful trees that I understand can talk. So if you've got a translator for me, I'd like to know what they're saying. And being blessed by my son who made the decision to call me and find out how our travels were. And my daughter sending pictures of our granddaughters in their Halloween costumes, always looking forward. The language of love. I've heard it and I'm seeing it.
I saw God this evening and during the day in the smiles of faces, new friends and old. I specifically saw God in the embraces that have been prevented for so long, and it was wonderful to be able to feel God's expression that way today.
I am a long ways from Houston, Texas, and sometimes I am geographically challenged. And I saw God before I could cry. I saw the sign for Sandy Hook. And as I was holding my breath, the image, the glory of God manifested, emerged from the clouds. The glorious light came shining through. And I saw hope. And I saw God.
While we were waiting for our food tonight, which was late, sorry about that, people, I happened to look out the window, and we have a giving fence out here. And a young man rode up on his bicycle, took off his shirt, and took a shirt from the hanger and put it on. And I'm thanking God that we were able to provide him with a new shirt. And there's joy in that.
I saw God in all the faces here in this room. This is amazing. It's the first time I've ever gone to an assembly like this, and I'm like, wow. I'm blown away. I also saw him on Facebook this evening when my grandson, who just came back from Disney, who was down there during that storm, the smiles on his face when he came home. It's like, wow.
I saw God today before I came to church. Early this morning, I have a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they got up to go to school. And I was making grits for breakfast. And my daughter, my 7-year-old, decided she wanted to cook with me. So she got up and helped me make the grits. And my 2-year-old sat on the chair on the other side of the kitchen eating berries and just watching. And so just the presence of the two little daughters helping me and watching felt more like a feeling of the presence of God was there.
Diane Ellis says, I saw God today in the reaching out to me from my cousin to let me know that my aunt had died in the phone conversation we had, which blessed both of us. And Carol Giblin says, I saw God in the beautiful changing leaves while running errands today. And last night, arriving for choir rehearsal, there were 2 deer at the back of our parking lot. God is so good.
In my day job, I'm an elementary music teacher in the public schools, and I see God every day. I also saw God today during the wonderful congregational singing you guys brought to the table today, so thank you for that. With that being said, let's sing Spirit of the Living God one more time, a cappella. All right, ready, set, here we go. Oh, just kidding, is it up there? Oh, it is up there. And Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Melt me, mold me, fill me, use me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Thank you.
And the God who never slumbers nor sleeps holds you, holds me in the power of unchanging hands, ever revealing hands, ever knowing hands, powerful hands. Rest comfortably in them and be rocked with the gentleness of that Holy Spirit that falls afresh, on each of us. Amen.
We'll gather in the morning at 9-ish. 9.
Yeah. No problem. No problem.
New York, right? Yeah, Brooklyn, right. All right, if you want to apply for it, just give me a call. Thank you. Say it again. Yes.
Of course. Of course. My pleasure.